What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a limited television series that's available on Netflix that I genuinely love a lot. And I rewatched it again recently, and I've never talked about it before on here, but I really appreciate this style of humor. And I think this is one of the most like poignant and hilarious pieces of television made in like the past 10 years. And rewatching it now, I find the approach to this style of humor to be it's so impressive to be able to pull it off. But just to make it so clever and poignant and to kind of dissect so many elements of society in a way that I think is very relevant is very, very impressive. And so today I'm going to talk about the limited series on Netflix, Cunk on Earth. So Cunk on Earth is a show about Philomena Cunk, who is doing this mini mockumentary series talking about the existence of civilization and going through different episodes talking about certain segments of society and interviewing trained professionals in their specific field on whatever that subject that they're talking about, and her kind of giving them the hard questions, so to speak, about these different subjects. And I adore this more than I could possibly tell you. I truly think the character of Philomena Cunk is one of the funniest characters created in years. And Philomena Cunk is played by Diane Morgan, who is absolutely hilarious. Because if you're unfamiliar with this, I would just suggest you going and watching like a supercut of some of the jokes from this and then like diving in and watching the whole show. So her whole thing is when she's interviewing these people, she will ask the dumbest questions that you've ever heard in your life, like the most ridiculous, over the top, silly, off the wall questions that don't often make sense, but there's oftentimes really great punchlines associated with like the current situation that she's discussing. Like she even talks about religion at one point during this, talks about the Cold War, talks about the Renaissance, all of these different things. And I wish that I was as clever as she is so that I could deliver some of these lines of dialogue. But truly just so sharp and witty and hilarious, and she does it in such like a deadpan way that when you're interviewing these professionals, I'm assuming most of them don't know that it's a gag. They probably think they're talking about their subjects in real time. But what makes it so incredible is just with how much confidence that she says something. And there's one particular scene in the show, and I can't remember which philosopher she's talking about, but she's talking about, it's one of the Greek philosophers, and she's like, I may come across as incredibly confident when I talk to you, but I'm very nervous, and I always think about this Greek philosopher who says, "Dance like no one's watching," and it really gives me the confidence to come out here and talk to you. And the person sits and waits for her to finish and says, "I don't think he ever said that." And just her reaction in that situation, she just looked so incredibly defeated. And there's just so many great moments like that throughout the series of like her making these really like off the wall remarks about things and just seeing the response of this person who has probably spent their entire career studying a certain subject or like researching it, and it's just amazing. Some of them like feel like they can pick up on it a little bit, but some of them they're just so flabbergasted by the situation. Like there's this one lady she talks to who's like her specifications in music, and she's like, "What do you think he meant by the Beethoven meant by the lyrics?" Like bum 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 bum, and she's like, "There is no lyrics to that song." Like just the sharp wittiness of it. She goes onto these tangents about her buddy Paul all the time that are just like one of my favorite things I've ever watched in a television show. Just like so hilarious that she's specifically referencing this guy who clearly is uneducated on these things, and she's like, "No, but he told me." And I love that. And the funny part is like the whole gag is obviously that she's uneducated to these situations. She doesn't really know what she's doing. But she also makes a lot of really poignant and hilarious commentary on issues, especially in the episode about religion. When she's talking about Christianity, there are a lot of moments in there that, like, being someone who was raised in a conservative Christian household, that, like, watching her navigate these issues and, like, talk about them, even though it's ridiculous and absurd and overblown, it's incredibly hilarious, and it's mockumentary, so it's supposed to look like a documentary, and it's filmed incredibly well. The editing and like all of the attention to detail in the historical footage and the photos and the things that they use, it feels very realistic, but there's so many great moments. There's like one in an earlier episode where she literally is talking and she's doing voiceover and she's literally just like falling down a hill. And there's a lot of like great little gags. There's one where I think she's talking about being in war-torn Iraq, and she's like walking through this. She's like the ruins of the most ancient city, but she's like, but I'm not actually here because that's hundreds of miles away and fucking dangerous. But you don't know the difference because we just shot it in this place that looks similar. And there's just so many gags. As someone who loves documentary too and has watched a lot of documentary in my life, it's great to see someone be able to poke fun at the medium in a way that like actually works. There's just so much brilliance in the writing of the show. And just I think with her comedic delivery mixed in with a really intellectual writing and just how societally poignant, like I said, so much of it is, and it carries on into the modern age. And there's just so many great moments. There's one where she's talking to this guy about nuclear war, and she's like, but that can't really happen, it's all made up. And he's like, no, the threat of nuclear war is very real. And she starts like tearing up and crying, and she's like, can we talk about something else? Do you like ABBA? And there's just so many great moments with her, and I find myself wanting to quote this show like all the time because it's just there's so many great one-liners in this. And I know there's a movie associated with this that they did, I believe, and I know that she's done quite a few things as this character. But I have always loved British and English humor since I was a very young kid. My grandparents were both very into English humor, and so I was introduced to it very young. And I think there's something about the English that they're just so incredibly sharp and witty, and they understand dark comedy to an incredible level. I talk about it all the time, but Edgar Wright is one of my favorite filmmakers, and I love just how sharp and witty and just like absurdist that level of humor is. And this is perfectly sort of complementary to that idea where it's just a lot of it is like absurdity and just saying really ridiculous off the wall things, but there's also a way to do it where it's very intellectual and kind of breaking apart these ideas that we know as a society and that we've been exposed to, especially if you're familiar with history. As someone who loved history in high school and still really studies history and is infuriated at the fact that we're repeating a lot of horrible history in the United States of America, it's fun to watch a product mock a lot of the dumb things that we have done throughout history. And there's this one bit that she talks about um, relating to slavery, and the punchline of it was really funny, but it's also incredibly poignant. And I think that happens a lot throughout this show where she'll say something and you'll laugh because you're like, yeah, that's pretty on the nose. But then you kind of pull back and you think about it and you're like, no, that's real. I mean, like it, and that's to me, that's what the greatest thing about comedy is. I love comedy that can make you laugh or give you a very guttural, intense reaction in a funny way, but that after you think about it, it sits with you. It's one of the things I love about John Waters. I feel like his comedy is seen to be very extreme and shock value-y, but I feel like in a lot of instances, especially in the films that he kind of shifts towards societal commentary, towards like conservatism in like the suburbs and like in the areas near Baltimore where he grew up and lived. I love when you can have really brash in your face humor, but that it can also make you think. And that's what I think is so perfect about Philomena Cunk as a character and about the material that is put out there about her. And this is just one of the most brilliant pieces of comedic writing that I've ever seen. I think about it nonstop, like I said. And I think if you've never seen it before, please do yourself a favor. It's like 5 episodes long. The episodes are like 28, 29 minutes. Really hilarious. I love everything about it. And I already want to rewatch it again just talking about it now. Have you seen Cunk on Earth? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I absolutely love this series. Think it's one of the funniest things ever put on TV, and I need to watch that movie because of how much I love this. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot. Lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.